Have you ever found yourself utterly consumed by thoughts of another person? Perhaps it's someone you admire from afar, a figure from your past, or even someone who challenges you deeply. This persistent mental replay, this inability to get them out of your head, is a common, yet often unsettling human experience. What if these recurring thoughts are not just random mental noise, but a profound message from your own psyche? Carl Jung, the pioneering Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, believed that our intense preoccupations with others often reveal more about ourselves than about the person in question. He explored the depths of the human mind, suggesting that these connections or obsessions are deeply intertwined with our own inner world, our unconscious desires and our journey towards wholeness. As Jung himself wrote, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. This isn't just about fleeting crushes or passing annoyances, it's about the significant figures who take up residence in our minds, acting as mirrors to our own hidden landscapes. In today's journey, we'll delve into the Jungian perspective on why you can't stop thinking about them. We'll uncover the powerful mechanisms of projection, explore the magnetic pull of the anima and animus, those inner archetypal figures, and consider how these individuals might represent the call of your own unlived life, pointing towards crucial areas for your personal growth. This exploration isn't about simple fixes, but about profound self-discovery. Are you ready to understand what these persistent thoughts are truly trying to tell you? If you've ever experienced this, or if this idea resonates with you, share your initial thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the wisdom of the psyche. So what is this powerful force that can make us fixate on another person? According to Carl Jung, one of the primary mechanisms at play is psychological projection. Jung described projection as an unconscious automatic process whereby we attribute qualities, feelings or motives that are actually our own, often unacknowledged or uncomfortable, onto someone else. It's like our mind takes a hidden part of itself and instead of looking inward, casts it onto the screen of another person. As Jung stated in his work, projection is never made. It happens. It is a natural, unconscious, and universal psychic phenomenon. Why does this happen? Our psyche, in its relentless pursuit of wholeness, seeks to bring unconscious contents into the light of awareness. When certain aspects of ourselves, perhaps our untapped potential, our deepest fears, or our rejected shadow traits, are too difficult to confront directly, we might unknowingly see them in others. The person we can't stop thinking about then becomes a kind of carrier for these disowned parts of our personality. They become a living symbol of what's stirring within our own depths. This is precisely why the thoughts can become so persistent and emotionally charged. When we project, we are not truly seeing the other person as they are. We are seeing a reflection of our inner landscape. If we project positive qualities like immense creativity or unwavering confidence onto someone, we might find ourselves endlessly admiring them, perhaps even feeling an intense pull towards them. This isn't just simple admiration. Jung would suggest it's often our own latent creativity or unexpressed confidence calling out to be recognized and integrated. For instance, you might be captivated by a public figure who seems incredibly articulate and fearless. Could it be that your own voice, your own courage is seeking expression, and this person is the hook upon which you've hung that projection? Consider the example of Sarah, who found herself constantly thinking about her new manager, David. David was assertive, decisive, and always seemed to have the right answer. Sarah, on the other hand, often struggled with self-doubt and found it hard to speak up. Her preoccupation with David wasn't necessarily romantic. It was an intense, almost obsessive admiration. From a Jungian standpoint, Sarah was likely projecting her own undeveloped assertiveness and decision-making capabilities onto David. He embodied what she unconsciously aspired to, but hadn't yet owned within herself. The constant thinking was her psyche's way of keeping this potential in her conscious awareness, urging her towards its development. Projections aren't limited to positive traits. We also project our shadow, those aspects of ourselves that we deem unacceptable, negative, or inferior. Jung considered the shadow to be a crucial part of our personality, containing not just negative traits but also undeveloped positive ones. When we project our shadow, we might find ourselves intensely irritated, critical, or even repulsed by someone, and yet we can't stop thinking about them. That person who constantly gets under your skin, whose perceived arrogance or laziness infuriates you. Jung might posit that they are carrying a projection of your own disowned arrogance or a fear of your own potential for laziness. As he famously put it, whatever is rejected from the self appears in the world as an event. In this case, it appears as a characteristic in another that holds a strange power over our thoughts. Imagine Mark, who couldn't stand his colleague, Tom. Mark saw Tom as incredibly self-promoting and attention-seeking, and he'd spend hours mentally replaying Tom's perceived slights or boasts. Jung might suggest that Mark, perhaps a more reserved individual, had disowned his own need for recognition or his own ambition, relegating it to his shadow. Tom then became the screen for this projection. The intensity of Mark's reaction and his inability to stop thinking about Tom pointed to a significant, unacknowledged part of himself. Jung emphasized that for a projection to stick, there usually needs to be a hook in the other person, some characteristic, however small, that allows the projection to latch on. The other person isn't a complete blank slate. However, the emotional intensity and the obsessive thinking are fueled not by the hook itself, but by the significance of the projected content from our own unconscious. The crucial step in dealing with such obsessive thoughts, from a Jungian perspective, is the withdrawal of these projections. This means courageously asking, what is it in me that I am seeing in this other person? What part of myself is being activated by them? This isn't about blaming ourselves or the other person. It's about reclaiming lost parts of our own psyche, integrating them, and thus becoming more whole. When we begin to own these projected qualities, the other person often loses their intense hold over our thoughts. They become more human, less of an idol or a villain. So as you reflect on that person you can't stop thinking about, consider this: what qualities, positive or negative, do you most strongly associate with them? And could it be that these qualities are in some way a message from your own inner world, waiting to be understood and integrated? This process of withdrawing projections is a cornerstone of the journey Jung called individuation, the path to becoming your most authentic self. If this exploration of projection is shedding new light on your own experiences, let us know in the comments. Your insights enrich our shared journey. Beyond general projection, Carl Jung introduced two specific and profoundly influential archetypes that often fuel our preoccupations with others: the anima and the animus. These are not simply projections of any random trait. They represent the internalized, unconscious feminine aspects within a man, the anima, and the internalized, unconscious masculine aspects within a woman, the animus. Jung believed that for psychological wholeness, or individuation, an individual must acknowledge and integrate these contrasexual aspects of their psyche. The anima in a man embodies qualities often culturally associated with the feminine, such as intuition, emotionality, relatedness, creativity, and a connection to nature and the unconscious. The animus in a woman represents qualities often culturally linked to the masculine, such as logic, assertiveness, rationality, a capacity for focused thought, and a drive for achievement. It's crucial to understand that Jung wasn't strictly gendering these qualities as exclusive to one sex or the other in an external sense, but rather describing how these energies tend to manifest within the individual psyche, often influenced by societal conditioning. As Jung wrote in Ion Researches into the Phenomenology of the Self, the anima is the personification of all feminine psychological tendencies in a man's psyche, such as vague feelings and moods, prophetic hunches, receptiveness to the irrational capacity for personal love, feeling for nature, and last but not least, his relation to the unconscious. Similarly, he described the animus as a source of opinions or convictions in a woman, often appearing as a figure of authority or reason. When we can't stop thinking about someone, particularly in cases of intense romantic attraction or deep fascination, it's often because that person has become a carrier for our anima or animus projection. A man might find himself utterly captivated by a woman who seems to embody his undeveloped anima. Perhaps she is deeply intuitive, emotionally expressive, or possesses a captivating artistic sensibility. He isn't just attracted to her, he is drawn to the reflection of his own soul's missing feminine counterpart. The persistent thoughts are a longing for connection, not just with her, but with that part of himself. Consider Michael, a highly logical and successful engineer who found himself inexplicably drawn to Anna, a free-spirited artist who lived by her emotions and intuition. He couldn't stop thinking about her, even though on paper they seemed to have little in common. Jung would suggest Anna might be carrying Michael's anima projection. Her way of being represented the very qualities: emotional depth, spontaneity, a connection to the imaginal realm, that Michael, in his outwardly focused, rational life, had perhaps neglected or suppressed within himself. His fascination was a call from his own psyche to develop these aspects. Conversely, a woman might be intensely preoccupied with a man who embodies her animus projection. He might appear incredibly knowledgeable, decisive, or courageous, qualities she may feel are lacking or underdeveloped in herself. The thoughts about him are, in essence, her psyche's attempt to connect with and integrate her own inner masculine potential. For instance, Clara, a talented writer who often struggled with self-doubt and hesitated to share her work, found herself constantly thinking about a charismatic professor known for his confident assertions and intellectual prowess. Jung might interpret this as her animus being projected onto the professor. He symbolized the intellectual authority and assertive voice she needed to cultivate within herself to bring her own talents fully into the world. Jung described different developmental stages of the anima and animus. Initially, they might be projected onto real people in a very idealized or even demonized way. An immature anima projection, for example, might lead a man to be drawn to women who are emotionally volatile or overly dependent, reflecting an undifferentiated state of his own inner feminine. An undeveloped animus might manifest in a woman as a tendency to be overly critical, opinionated in a rigid way, or to be attracted to domineering men. The intensity of these anima-animus projections can be overwhelming. Jung referred to the anima as the soul image and the animus as the mind image. When we project these powerful archetypes, the other person seems to hold the key to our very soul, or our deepest understanding of the world. This is why breakups or unrequited fascinations involving these projections can be so devastating. It feels like a part of our own soul has been lost or rejected. As Jung noted, the encounter with the anima-animus is one of the most difficult and also most important steps in the process of individuation. The work, then, is to gradually withdraw these projections. This doesn't mean ceasing to appreciate or love others, but rather to recognize that the divine qualities we see in them are also reflections of our own inner potential. It involves asking, what aspect of my own inner feminine anima or inner masculine animus is this person highlighting? For me, how can I cultivate this quality within myself? For Michael, this might mean exploring his own creativity or allowing himself to feel and express his emotions more freely. For Clara, it might involve developing her own intellectual confidence and finding the courage to assert her own well-thought-out opinions. When the anima or animus is integrated, it becomes a source of immense creativity, wisdom, and inner guidance. For a man, a well-integrated anima connects him to his feelings, his intuition, and his capacity for deep relatedness. For a woman, a well-integrated animus provides her with clarity of thought, assertiveness, and the ability to manifest her ideas in the world. The person we couldn't stop thinking about then becomes less of an all-consuming obsession and more of a catalyst, a guide, who pointed us back towards the richness of our own inner world. Have you ever felt an almost magnetic pull towards someone who seemed to embody qualities you longed for? Could it have been your anima or animus seeking expression? Beyond specific projections of shadow traits or anima-animus complexes, the person you can't stop thinking about often embodies something even more profound, the call of your unlived life. Carl Jung spoke extensively about the parts of ourselves that, for various reasons, societal pressure, fear, lack of opportunity, or conscious choice, remain dormant, unexplored, or unexpressed. This unlived life doesn't simply disappear. It remains a potent force within the unconscious, yearning for realization. As Jung observed, the unsatisfied yearning of the soul can drain a man of all his vital powers if it is not heeded. The individual who captures your persistent thoughts may be a living symbol of these dormant potentials, these roads not taken. They might be living out a career you secretly dreamed of, exhibiting a freedom you crave, or embodying a quality you were discouraged from developing. The constant thinking is not merely about them as a person, but about what they represent, a part of your own life story that is clamoring for attention, for integration, for a chance to be lived. Imagine someone who has followed a conventional, secure career path, but finds themselves obsessively thinking about an old acquaintance who became a globe-trotting adventurer. This adventurer isn't just a person. They are a symbol of the unlived adventurous spirit within the individual. The thoughts are a reminder from the psyche. What about that part of you that longed for exploration and freedom? Is it truly gone, or is it waiting to be expressed in some way, even if not in the exact same manner? This concept is deeply connected to Jung's idea of the persona, the social mask we wear, the role we play in society. Often our persona is developed at the expense of other, equally valid aspects of our personality. The unlived life consists of these sacrificed parts. When we encounter someone who embodies these disowned aspects, they can trigger very powerful, often unsettling resonance. Jung suggested that nature is not only conservative, it is also creative. It is not only static, but also dynamic. If the repressed tendencies are not somehow compensated, they may take their revenge in the form of neurotic symptoms or other disturbances. Persistent, obsessive thoughts about another can be one such disturbance, a signal that a vital part of us is being neglected. Consider the example of Maria, a devoted mother and wife who had put her artistic ambitions on hold for many years. She found herself constantly thinking about a younger woman in her community who was a successful exhibiting artist. There was no envy in the negative sense, but rather a profound, almost aching fascination. From a Jungian perspective, this artist represented Maria's unlived creative life. The persistent thoughts were her psyche's way of saying, your artistic soul is still alive, it still yearns for expression. This doesn't mean Maria needed to abandon her family and become a full-time artist like the younger woman. Rather, the call was to find ways to integrate that creative energy into her current life, perhaps by dedicating time to painting, joining a local art group, or even just allowing herself to dream and plan for future artistic endeavors. The unlived life isn't always about grand dramatic paths not taken. It can also be about simpler qualities or ways of being. Perhaps you're a very serious, responsible person who can't stop thinking about someone who is incredibly playful and light-hearted. That person might represent your unlived capacity for joy, for spontaneity, for simply being without a constant sense of duty. The call is to find ways to cultivate that lightness within your own life. Jung believed that confronting our unlived life is essential for true self-realization. He wrote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The person you can't stop thinking about can be a key to making parts of your unconscious conscious. They act as a mirror reflecting back the potentials you've yet to explore. The task is not to become them or to live their life, but to understand what they awaken in you and how you can authentically integrate that awakened energy into your own unique journey. This often requires courage. It means looking honestly at the choices we've made and the parts of ourselves we may have set aside. It might involve grieving for what wasn't, but more importantly, it involves opening up to what still could be. The persistent thoughts, in this light, are not a curse but a guide, an invitation from the depths of your being to live more fully, more authentically. So ask yourself, what does this person I can't stop thinking about do that I've always wanted to do? How do they be in a way I've longed to be? What part of my own potential, my own unlived story are they bringing to my attention? Answering these questions can be the first step towards reclaiming those lost parts and moving towards a more integrated and fulfilling existence. If this video is helping you understand yourself better or see the world in a new light, please consider following our channel. It greatly helps us continue bringing this type of content to you. So as we've journeyed through Carl Jung's illuminating perspectives, it becomes clear that the people we can't stop thinking about are often far more than just fleeting distractions. They are messengers from our own psyche, reflecting back to us the hidden dynamics of projection, the archetypal pull of our inner anima or animus, and the potent call of our unlived life. Jung's work consistently points us inward, suggesting that these external fascinations or irritations are, in essence, opportunities for profound self-discovery and growth. The intensity of these thoughts is not a sign of weakness, but rather an indication of the psychic energy attached to these unconscious contents. As Jung taught, the psyche strives for wholeness, and these figures who populate our minds are often catalysts, urging us to acknowledge, confront, and integrate disowned parts of ourselves. They invite us to withdraw our projections, to consciously engage with our inner contrasexual aspects, and to courageously embrace the potentials we may have left dormant. This isn't about blaming the other person, or even necessarily seeking a resolution with them externally. It's about understanding their symbolic role in our own inner drama. Carl Jung famously stated, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Those persistent thoughts about another person can be the very alarm clock that rouses us from the dream of external fixation and invites us to look within, to the rich, complex, and often challenging landscape of our own soul. By heeding these internal calls, by doing the courageous work of self-reflection and integration, we move closer to what Jung termed individuation, becoming the unique, whole individual we are meant to be. The journey of understanding these deep connections is ongoing, a continuous unfolding of self-awareness. What insights have surfaced for you as we've explored these Jungian concepts? If you've had any experiences like these, or if this exploration has resonated with you, please share your reflections in the comments below. Your journey enriches our collective understanding. And of course, subscribe to our channel for more explorations into the mysteries of the psyche and the path of self-knowledge. Thank you for joining us on this path of inner discovery.